My female 21, sister Jess, female 30, is married and has a 5-year-old stepson. Her husband works full-time and she is a stay-at-home mom. Every Monday, she'd call my mom at 9 a.m. to get her to go over to her house and watch her stepkid for a few hours. I live at home with my parents, and so I've noticed this routine for weeks now. Last week, Mom went out of town to visit some relatives, and yesterday, Monday, at 9 a.m., my sister called asking me to come watch her stepkid for a few hours because she had an important thing to do. I said no because I had to go study, and also she does this every Monday, so clearly it wasn't important or urgent, but she insisted it was. I told her sorry, but no. She ended the call, then I went to the university. Hours later, I got a call from my brother-in-law asking where my sister was. I said I had no idea. He proceeded to tell me he just came home at 1 p.m. and found his son by himself at the house. I was in shock that my sister left her stepkid by himself so she could go God knows where. I told him about the conversation I had with her and he got angry. In the evening, my sister came over and started making a scene by yelling at me for bailing on her after she sent me a text message telling me she was already out of the house to force me to come watch her stepson. I said I didn't see the Facebook message till she told me, but she says I did this deliberately and also exposed her to her husband because she told him she'd be home with the kid. Not just that, but I also told her husband that Mom comes over every Monday morning to watch the kid for a few hours, which caused a huge fight between him and my sister. She yelled that I was petty and selfish and just stirred crap and caused issues in her marriage by tattling to her husband. I couldn't keep arguing. I went back into my room and started playing music. My dad and the others said I was to blame for not helping my sister, and now being the reason she and her husband are in conflict. Am I the a-hole? Now the top comments. Not only are you not the a-hole, but let's be extremely, exceptionally, absolutely crystal clear about something here. My dad and the others said I was to blame for not helping my sister, and now being the reason she and her husband are in conflict. You are not to blame for any of this. Your sister is to blame for every single aspect of this, and there are plenty. Just for fun, let's enumerate some of them. You are not to blame for not helping your sister in a situation where she only needed help in the first place to cover up for a lie that she still hasn't come clean about, and which is likely seriously problematic, since she's been keeping it from her husband for weeks, if not longer. Not helping someone be sneaky and dishonest is not a character flaw on your part. You are absolutely not the reason she and her husband are in conflict. She is a 30-year-old woman who made a deliberate and voluntary choice to leave a 5-year-old child alone for hours. That's not just piss-poor judgment, it's child neglect and completely illegal. It's also not your responsibility. You didn't hold a gun to her head and force her to not take care of her stepchild, a responsibility she willingly took on and agreed to with her husband. She made that choice all by herself. In the eyes of the law, she's completely culpable, and ethically, she is as well. None of this is on you. You are not to blame for the fact that she is seemingly incapable of taking responsibility for her own behavior, and the rest of your family enable that, even when she endangers a child. Nope, you are not the a-hole, and good for you for saying something to your brother-in-law. He deserves to know that his wife is a liar and a danger to his small child. You may be the only decent person in your family. Update. Guys, I've decided to try and find out what is really going on with Jess. I'm not the type to snoop, and it's not my business, but she already made it my business by turning the family against me because of something she did. Not gonna lie, I came here thinking I was going to get toast, but I was wrong. Thank goodness for that. I, 19 female, have a roommate, Kayla, also 19 female. We have been roommates for almost 1 year. We have always had this shared refrigerator situation going on where we alternate every week or two on who buys the groceries, cleaning supplies, etc. But we don't cook for each other. Very important to the story. Well, 6 months ago, Kayla got a boyfriend, Caleb, 21 male, who has been spending a lot of time in our apartment. He would leave his mess and when I say everywhere, I really mean it. He would leave his clothes on the bathroom floor and living room floor. But the biggest issue was he would eat everything, even the things that were strictly mine. For example, leftover takeouts, dinners that I cooked for myself. I've talked with my roommate about this multiple times, and she said she would talk to him, but it doesn't really seem like she even tries to talk to him, which seems like she is enabling him to continue this behavior. Here's where the incident happened. 2 nights ago, I made myself some dinner. I was following this recipe, and I was making fried chicken that had some sort of sauce that contained honey in it. Also very important to the story. Neither I nor my roommate has any sort of allergy, so I didn't say anything to her when I made it, or when I put my leftovers in Tupperware and in the fridge. Well, yesterday, I got home from work and my roommate wasn't home. I didn't question it and moved on with my day. A few hours later, I heard the front door open, and a few moments later, my roommate enters my room and just starts yelling at me, saying I could have killed her boyfriend and how I am irresponsible, and how dare I put my food in the fridge unlabeled when her boyfriend is allergic to honey. But here's the thing, I didn't know he was allergic to honey. Here's where I think I might be the a-hole. I tried explaining to her that I simply didn't know of her boyfriend's allergy, and he should have never been touching my food knowing he has an allergy and could potentially be putting himself in harm's way, which he did in this situation. I also mentioned that I told her to tell him to not touch my food, and she blew up on me even more, saying that I'm dismissing her feelings. And I mentioned that she has been dismissing mine ever since he got there. We ended the argument with me yelling at her that I'm not responsible for his allergies, and she should have never brought him around the apartment. I told my friend about what happened, and she told me that even though he was in the wrong for basically stealing my food, I should have never said that to my roommate because she was in a stressful situation where a loved one could have died. Now, I feel bad and think I might have been in the wrong. Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Don't steal people's food. I had a coffee creamer in the fridge at work that was completely labeled as mine. Someone kept drinking it, so I waited another day or so and grabbed the old one from my fridge in my house and swapped it. The one from my house was easily cottage cheese at that point. Based on the entitled manager that was throwing up after the sip, I found my suspect. Straight up said, "Have we learned our lesson about stealing now?" She was upset, tried to write me up, but the union contracted with why was she even in our break room when managers are not allowed to be. She transferred stores a couple months later. Roommate's boyfriend isn't just a thief, he's stupid. This is just really dumb of him. He's been stealing food for weeks without considering it might have a pretty common ingredient like honey in it. Plenty of sauces, marinades, and dressings have honey in them. Lots of foods have honey without it being obvious. Literally any meat or vegetable dish could have honey in it. Not the a-hole. And OP, you've been way too lenient with your roommate and this guy. What he's been doing this whole time is stealing, and you don't have to tolerate that. Me, 25 female, and my roommate, 25 female, have been living together for almost 6 months now. We are both nurses, work in different hospitals, and have been friends since nursing school 5-ish years ago. For some background, I have 2 sisters and I am the youngest in our family. My mom divorced my dad and left our family when I was 2 years old. My dad is amazing and became the best single dad in the world. Was both dad and mom for his 3 daughters. He's literally my best friend. Anyway, my dad, 67 male, lives 2 hours away now. In October, I had a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off in a row. I missed my dad a lot and told him I was coming home to see him. He said he'd love to see me, but asked if he could come to where I live since he had some friends he wanted to see as well. I said, of course. I told my roommate he was coming to visit for the weekend, and she said, "Cool, is he staying at the blank hotel?" Which is a hotel close by. I said, well, I thought he could stay here. He can stay in my room and I'll sleep on an air mattress on my floor. She basically said she thought he would stay in a hotel. I figured she didn't want the apartment cramped. We've never had guests stay for that long. And my dad said he didn't mind. So the 2 of us stayed at the hotel for the weekend. Fast forward to now. My friend informed me that her mom is coming to visit and is planning on staying a week at our apartment. I was confused and said, she's not staying at blank hotel? And she pretty much said what I told her about how I planned for my dad to stay. I called her out on it and said that my dad was only coming for 2 nights and she didn't want him here, and that her mom is staying for a week. She told me that having my dad stay and having our mom stay are completely different because it's a female and not a male. I got really upset with her statement. My dad has always been so nice and welcoming to her. He and I will meet halfway for dinner once a month, and my roommate has gone with us on several occasions. I got really upset with my roommate and told her that I didn't want her mom to stay at our apartment, and she needed to stay at the hotel like my dad had to. My roommate is now mad at me, but I feel like I'm justified in being upset at the double standard. Am I the a-hole? Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. You asked her why and she said because the apartment could be cramped. She has to work, didn't want you to keep her awake, but didn't mention anything about him being your dad. Until later when you didn't want her mom to stay, and then all of a sudden, it's because he's a male. I call BS on that. She didn't want him there because it was inconvenient for her, but she doesn't care if she put you in the same situation for an even longer period of time. Is that for every male? Are you or her never having a boyfriend sleeping over? Not the a-hole, but even more, she's being very unreasonable, and you totally have a reason to be offended. If your parent isn't allowed to stay over, then parents aren't allowed to stay over. BS about male versus female. You didn't want your dad to stay in her room. He was going to stay in your private room. I could have been offended back then and doubly offended now that she even has the audacity to assume her mother is welcome there. Wow. Roommate situations are tough when it comes to guests. It's always a good idea to have an agreement beforehand, but if you don't have one, then you should assume your parent is welcome to stay over for a few nights. That is until she created the rule when you invited your dad. She did it to herself. Sounds like you should start looking for a new roommate. Not the a-hole. She said no guests for 3 nights, so can't expect now to have her mother there for a week. Even if the dad issue hadn't come up, you're well within your rights to not want another person in your tiny home for a whole week. That's something that needs to be discussed and agreed upon by both parties. Even if her mother is lovely, it's your space and it's a disruption to you having someone else there for that amount of time. Obviously, she wants one rule for her and one rule for you because your dad is male, and it's different because it's her mother, so it's okay. But that's not fair on you. Neither is just telling you that she's coming without so much as asking if it's okay with you. Stand your ground on this one. My sister Annie, female in her 30s, is obsessed with a girl, let's say Jane, female in her 20s, that her husband cheated on her with in mid-2020. I don't know why, Jane's not the first or the last. She was one of the decent ones, didn't realize he was married, broke it off when she found out, and sent the proof of his cheating to his wife. Somehow he spun this as she's trying to break us up, and my sister fell for it, which is stupid because Jane already blocked them on everything. He's the one that basically stalked her for months after. Anyway, Annie's been stalking Jane's socials. Anytime Jane posts about something bad happening, Annie calls me up to gloat. Anytime she posts about anything good that happens, Annie starts crying about how it's not fair. In the last few months, Jane apparently got a high-paying new job, got engaged, and is pregnant. Annie had a full-on meltdown over it. It's all she ever wants to talk about. She'll call me at least twice a week with this stuff, and texts me multiple times a day. She doesn't want advice, doesn't want to leave him, just wants to vent endlessly. My other sister is also tired of this, but my mom says we need to be gentle because it's hard for Annie. I just want her to stop. I tried sympathy, tough love, changing the subject, suggest counseling, nothing works. It's non-stop Jane this and Jane that. I hit my boiling point this morning when she was going on about how Jane's fiancé would cheat because she's too fat. She's pregnant, and her baby would be a bastard, etc. Then she said, I don't care because I won and she lost. She had him for a week and I have him for a lifetime. For some reason, that made me snap. I told Annie she won a slimy serial cheater who likes to creep on barely legal teens, who never supported her through illness or depression, never lifts a finger around the house, sulks about having to babysit his own kids, constantly makes mean jokes about her, and criticizes her appearance harshly, even though he's below average in looks. I said something like, maybe you're obsessed with Jane's life because yours is a massive dumpster fire. Since then, I had to deactivate my socials because I'm getting non-stop hate from Annie, her friends, and extended family for being cruel. Apparently, I have no morals and condone cheating. None of them are going for the actual cheater though, just me for pointing out that he's a cheater. My other sister says that I wasn't wrong, but I was an a-hole to say it so harshly, and that Annie is a victim too. I don't know, Reddit, am I? Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister is obsessed with Jane because of the lack of crazy. Jane broke it off and moved in as soon as she found out, proving herself to be a decent person and not at all willing to humiliate herself to the douche canoe. She wants that crazy obsessed side piece behavior to make herself look like a martyr, feel smug that her husband won't go anywhere, because of course he won't. You are not the a-hole. Sit back and watch the drama like the wannabe Mexican telenovela it is. Good luck. Everyone sucks here, but justified on your part. Your sister is fixating on the wrong person, someone who dumped the cheater when she found out, instead of dumping her gaping a-hole husband and sorting her life out. At some point, you need a boundary to contain her BS. Yes, it wasn't the best way to put it, but if nicer messages aren't getting through, you need to pull the pin on the grenade and let it rip. Everyone sucks here, so someone has to be the a-hole in this case, and I condone it. Honestly, I would have done it a while ago if this were my siblings cyberstalking someone else's life for years of living their own. No one else wanted to reveal the ugly truth to your sister. Everyone else in the family seems to be happy indulging her while she goes off like a crazy obsession that warrants a hot seat on the Jerry Springer show. For your information, that's not being nice. It's enabling someone with kids to be spiteful and immature and passing on the misery.